Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're working on a pair of weed eaters we picked up in a deal yesterday. Now I got them at a really good price. One of them's got a broken pull cord, and the other one leaks oil all over the place. They're four-strokers, so it does have an internal oil supply, and just looking at it, it's covered with oil. So let's get to them and see what we can do to save these guys. Okay, I picked this one to go first. No special reason, it's just the one I picked. Now we're going to have to pull her completely apart and clean it all up before we even get started. But I want to take the covers off first because taking a look inside will tell me where the oil's coming from. I'm kind of betting it's a valve cover. Hopefully it's not an engine case issue. So let's get to it. Whoops. That might be the one I want. Nope, it's not. Before we get too far, let's grab ourselves a magnet because we're going to be taking quite a few screws out of this. And remember to always take pictures when you're doing something like this. It'll save you a whole lot of time putting it back together. We should have two underneath here. Don't know if that'll reach. Nope, that won't reach. Let's pull the three off the face. And this thing is absolutely covered with oil. Just head to toe, inside out. Okay, that one didn't come out. But she did unscrew. Okay, we can probably leave the bottom screws alone on this one. Now, a lot of times on this one in particular, you'll have to Ouija the top here to get the top cover to come off. And the primer bulb's attached to it. Now, we're not too concerned because we're going to replace the fuel lines anyway. So there we have it. Now I see a lot of oil all over the place, but I don't see where it's coming from yet. I was assuming it was coming from the valve cover, but it looks pretty clean. But a lot of times what will happen is the oil will leave the part that actually leaks nice and clean. So let's go ahead and pull our tiny little valve cover off and see what we've got inside. Okay, the rubber seal looks okay. Everything appears to be in good order here. There are no odd marks on the lid or anything. Up. And you don't know, it could have just simply been nothing more than a loose screw. But we'll dig around a little bit more. And if we have to, we'll clean her up and run or something. Because the next possibility of what this could be is on the base down here. Now we drained the gas out before we even got started. That's a golden rule around here. always drain the fuel first, because no matter what you're doing, you're going to end up with gas all over the place if you don't. Looking around now for what else might be hanging on. Okay, that should give us what we need to pull the recoil assembly off. At least I think so. Let's look around and see what she's hanging up on. Sometimes the little tabs will stick themselves. Come on, buddy. But we'll see those when we get it off. Now look at that. We've got one more tiny little screw here. I don't know if we've got anything small enough to remove this one. Looks to be the tiniest little Allen key. And there we go. And always, 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 when you're taking something like this apart, take your time and don't force anything. I work on a lot of different motors, and so I'm not always completely familiar with each case. And there we go. And there's our screws fell out. One of them found its way straight to the magnet. Yeah, the recoil mechanism looks to be in really nice shape. So let's look inside and see if we can see anything. Okay, now down here we can see fresh oil. Let's take a look.
Motion detected at the front door.
Okay, if we look down here, see by the screw you can see fresh oil. That's very likely where our leak's coming from. So we're going to have to pull the little oil sump out of it. That's a little bit more work, but not a big problem. Okay, I'm just taking my time now and taking a good look at it to see what to expect. Now let's get to it. No, we're actually downsizing for this one. So we'll grab the next size down. We're probably going to make a little bit of a mess with the oil. Yeah, we lost one there. Let's get this other screw before we forget about it. There we go. And there we go. Let's pull our oil fill. That way we can have a look inside and see what else is hanging up on it. Ah, we've got another screw hiding under the oil fill. There you go. And there she is. Now, this gasket actually looks really good. And it's entirely possible that this was nothing more than loose. So let's clean this up real good and take a better look at it to look for any spots. And I have seen that before where they, just over time, they just do nothing more than shake loose. Going to determine whether or not we want to reuse this gasket. It is a rubberized gasket, and I don't think I can do better than this with a new one, though. It would appear as it did nothing more than shake loose. Okay, so let's throw her back together and tighten up all the bolts and see what we've got. Now on this, note this, we have to line this up with this when we put her back on. I'm not worried about the front bearing seal here because I didn't see any grease to speak of on the front of this. I hate working on dirty motors like this, but when it's an oil leak you're looking for, the best way to do it is to leave it full of oil and take the cases off and look around for the shiniest spot, basically, because usually the shiniest spot is where the oil is leaking from. Because the oil leak will clean the spot off for you. Okay, that'll do it. And work on getting our gasket in place and getting the cover aligned correctly. Oh, we lost our flywheel. Oh, and there it all went. So now we'll worry about our gasket. As long as we can see our holes through all the holes here, we know we lined up correctly. Using a screwdriver to do final alignment on it. And now when we put the screws in, we're going to put them in one at a time, and we're not going to tighten anything up until all the screws are in place. We'll do one here on the side, and we'll put the next one in the top corner on the far side. There we go. And that's just in loosely. Okay, now those two screws being on opposing sides will hold everything lined up. So I'm going to scoot you back out to give myself a little elbow room to work with. And I know I've already said it once, and I feel like I should say it 9 more times. Remember to take pictures. Lots of them. Because if you're not accustomed to doing this all the time, it's not going to be nearly as obvious as it appears here. And I'm leaving a little bit of room in each screw. And that's for the flex that I'll need later, in case one screw doesn't go. Now in this case, all the screws went. So now we'll take it up to a little bit snug all the way around. And we're going to go back and forth, because it is a cover. Now we're just putting a tiny bit of snug on them now. The screw gun may sound like we're tightening them, but we're really not. It's the Loctite that's on the screws that makes it sound that way. Now we can go the rest of the way in. Let's rotate the motor around. Get that hole over here. And we've got the motor upside down at the moment, so we're going to have lots of oil in the cylinder. We're going to want to remove the spark plug before we try to start it and blow all the oil out. This thing looks like it's been sitting for a little while, so it's probably going to get a carburetor and all that whatnot, new fuel lines. There we go. Let's double check you, see where you're sitting now. Okay. Let's check you. I think we might have finished off our screw gun end. Let's switch off to the little one. This is kind of hard to get to, so I don't want to have to do it twice. And when you're doing something like this, just take your time, take your time, take your time. Can't say it enough. Now we'll take this and put this back together. Kind of a lot of work for an oil leak, but when you think I paid like $15 for this unit, it's a steal in the long run. That's not the right screw. I do believe that's the right screw for this one. There we go. Okay, that should take care of the oil leak. Now we're not going to put the whole thing back together, because we're going to go ahead and put new fuel lines on it and replace the carburetor while we're at it. It's always nice to take a look at the cylinder from the inside. Gives you a good feel for the motor. Of course, these 4-strokes are always in good shape. Little 2-strokes, people run regular gas in them and blow them up. But the 4-strokes, not so much. It's just whether or not it got tired and old. Okay, let's get that cover back on. Now we're taking our time, we're lining it up. Don't force it. Well, we are hanging up on something, we're not sure what. But with the complexity of this cover, it's probably just an alignment thing with one of the 43 tabs on it. See, and that time it fell on pretty smooth, so let's go ahead and line this up and get her back in place. And everything's there. Oil changes are pretty easy on tiny little motors. Can't do that with a lawnmower. Okay, let's go ahead and put some new oil in it. With the size of the motor, it's not going to take much. Just layer down and look at the sight glass. You can see the oil right at the top of the sight glass right here. So we're pretty close to right. So this thing was overfilled to no end originally. And he did tell me it was leaking oil. But we've gone through all the gaskets on the motor. And they all look pretty good. And I can't help but wonder if it was leaking because he was putting a gallon of oil in it. So now, with the plug out, we're going to pull her a few times and try to clear the extra oil out of the cylinder. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and sand the spark plug down a little bit, get nice clean connectors on it. Okay, that should do it. Let's get the boot out of the way and put the plug back on. And then after this, we can put fresh gas in her and see if she starts. This one's got the jump start option. We happen to have the connection for it. So it'll make life a little easy for us. And that's that. Okay, let's test her and see what she's got. Now, since I've got the electric start for this, I'm going to save myself pulling the cord and just do this to start her up. Okay, I've got the choke off. Okay, power is on. Okay, now we're going to let her sit and idle for a couple of minutes and see what happens. Okay, now let's take a look at her and see if we can find anything. Okay, I do not see any hint of an oil leak, so it looks like we beat it. Well, that went pretty well. Now 4-stroke weed eaters aren't my cup of tea due to the weight, but this one worked really good. And I ran her around the yard and she ran really nice and stayed running and didn't leak any oil. So she's ready to go. I do appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.